Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, all good.
Can you see me at all?
We can see the presentation and we can hear you.
Excellent. I hope wherever you are, you're keeping safe and well. And thank you to the organizers for oh, I'm having a problem here. And thank you to the organizers for making this conference possible online. My presentation today is towards a cross-cultural education framework for online safety awareness. It's part of my research looking at effective ways of teaching online safety to young people in less developed countries. I think this is important because much of the research, the education materials, and programs have been conducted and developed in advanced countries in Europe, in North America, in Australasia. As a consequence, when you're trying to introduce a program into a less developed country, an LDC, the temptation is to import a program or part of a program into the country. That may not be the best approach, and one of the reasons is to do with cultural differences. The guiding principles you can see on the screen there is from Edward T. Hall's Beyond Culture book, and he is one of the first to study cross-cultural communications. Essentially, what he's saying here is that each culture has its own norms, own ways of doing things, and that extends to learning. And as researchers and educators, we should take the cultural context of our learners into consideration and not do a copy and paste from one country, one culture to another. The resulting education framework from this research is presented as a workflow. To have an effective education program, it needs to be based on evidence and locally relevant information. So to do a literature review generally, but also specifically to that LDC. If there's insufficient data, like I found in Thailand where I was doing my research, then you need to do surveys, interviews, and use other research methods and tools. That data is fed into the young people online model, which is based on the Global Kids Online model, and also Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory, just like in the last presentation. I won't go into much detail about it here, but there's more in the paper. Essentially, what you want to do is try to find the list of topics, issues that are facing the young people in that particular country, and especially the risks that could potentially lead to harm. You also want to know what shapes their attitudes and behavior, looking at the influences, their family, teachers, their peers, and also the environment that they're growing in. How easy is it to get online? What's the availability? What's the cost? And also looking at the cultural environment. Now, all this data needs to be passed through what we call the cultural mask. Now, this mask to a visitor to a country is what's going on in the country, but it's hidden from them because they don't know the culture. As an example, in the interviews, when asked what students did when they had experienced something online that was upsetting, they said they would never tell their parents or their teachers. And there's a deeply embedded cultural reason for that, which we'll come on to a bit later on. Once you've done this, you need to set some activities which are culturally appropriate as well. And putting it all together, you can get a applicability matrix. And this is essentially just a repository of activities required, the ages it's designed for, and the class size, and also importantly, the cultural context. In our examples here, the first one is cyberbullying. Now in Thailand, there's no word for bully, so any program that deals with cyberbullying needs to address this first. The second one there is sati, or mindfulness. And as Thailand is a majority Buddhist country, and this is a Buddhist practice, we thought it was quite a good way to end the workshops we did on cyberbullying with this exercise. Before going on, just talk a bit about culture itself. Many of you will know the iceberg model of culture. This was inspired by Edward T. Hall's work. At the surface culture, it's all the visible signs of a culture, the clothes, the food, the music. It's also the etiquette layer, because you can learn the do's and don'ts of a particular culture. For example, in Thailand, like in other Southeast Asian countries, you should never touch someone's head. The shallow culture level is happening just underneath. It's to do with things like timekeeping. Is it okay to be late for a meeting, or should you always be punctual? It's also the values and understanding layer. At this point, in Buddhism, the head represents the highest part of the body and is sacred and is where you have the knowledge. The deep culture level comes after many years lived in experience embedded in a culture. And it's also the empathy sensitivity layer. At this point, you wouldn't even control so wrong. Hall himself differentiated between high context cultures and low context cultures. In the table on the screen, we have a high context collective society like Thailand versus a low context individualistic society like the US. In the high context collective society, there's an emphasis on social harmony, about priority for the group rather than the person, the self. Interpersonal relationships are very important, as well as hierarchy, and what is said is less important. In the low context individualistic country, there's a clear self-identification. If I did this, I achieved this. It's also where what is said explicitly is important. If I say to you, let's have a meeting tomorrow at 9:30, we will have a meeting at 9:30 tomorrow. And not at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. In Thailand, in other high context countries, it's a little bit more flexible. Culture also manifests itself in the classroom. There's definitely a hierarchy. Teachers are very highly respected, but they are also very responsible for the success or otherwise of their students. If a student fails at a test or an exam, then it's the fault of the teacher. Students themselves are deferential to teachers. The teacher's there with the knowledge and with the answers, and the students are there to receive the answers. It's one of the reasons why the rote learning style, the passive style, is very widespread in Thailand. In terms of social harmony, one of the main aspects is the avoidance of conflict. Thailand is known as the land of smiles, but what most people don't know, Thais smile when they are happy, when they're sad, when they're angry, irritated, or any other emotion, because they want to project an image of everything is fine. The phrase there, mipe and rye, is normally used for no worries or no problem, but it literally means it does not exist. If we meet, we would skirt around that problem, or we would just ignore each other. You should always try to avoid direct questions in the classroom, in the society as a whole as well. The worst thing a teacher can say to a student is, do you understand? Because Thais will try to give you the answer that you're looking for, and in this case it will be yes. So you need to try to find other ways to see if understanding has taken place. And if you're very strict or angry, show some anger in the classroom, then you will lose face, you will lose respect, which is one of the worst things. And also going forward, the students would be less open to you. So the best teachers, the most successful, are the ones who are Jayen, who are cool, easygoing, and Jaidi, kind-hearted. Thais represent all emotions with this word Jai, which means heart. The collective nature of Thais also comes out in the classroom from the University of that came to visit me from South Africa in Thailand. But their project is, this is me in January, and their team, and it was quite productive, and I'm hoping COVID-19 dependent and funding dependent that we will do some work. And along with Ruth, met a couple of researchers in Thammasat University. The top left there is Timo, who's doing work on cyberbullying in the LGBTQ community. And we've spoken about doing a possible collaboration in the future as well. And also in cybersecurity, to impart this knowledge by doing some teacher training. So that's it for me. So I'm open to questions now.